you really need to decide what you want the case to do. Is it going to be working hard? Do you want to keep the relative humidity different from the room? Do you want to keep it just at an average level in the room? Do you want to take the peaks and troughs off the relative humidity, which we call buffering? Or do you want to keep it at actually a different value? Does the object need to be at a different RH from what's in the room? And we have two different approaches. If you want to control relative humidity, there are two big ways of doing it. You can put some kind of buffer material, silica gel, the kind of thing that you often, if you buy a pair of shoes, there's a little sachet that it says don't eat. We can put that into a showcase. We need to put quite a lot more in, and there are different silica gels that work in different RH ranges. And the other approach is to use some kind of machine, which has the advantage that it will deal with a bigger, more leaky case, but it needs power. It's generally more expensive and somebody has to look after it. And for the silica gel, the big difference between controlling and buffering is for buffering, you just put the silica gel in there, you don't have to do anything with it. Again, maybe you'll measure the relative humidity to make sure it's working, but you don't need to change it. Whereas control, you need to swap the silica gel for conditioned silica gel after 6 months or 12 months. And that period will depend how much is there and how good your showcase is. So if we're talking about relative humidity, which is the most common thing that we try to control, and if we're considering a showcase like this, as we said earlier, there's two basic ways of doing it. We could put a machine somewhere around it if we've got power that would control it, and that's quite flexible. That will do most showcases in most situations, and you just need to think about the technical aspects of getting the machine in, which the manufacturers can give you. However, it is quite expensive. Most of us have been using some form of silica gel absorbent in the case, and there are a number of issues with trying to get it in. So for a tall case like this, we probably, and this is maybe a metre and a half cubed, we probably want 8 or 9 kilos of silica gel in there. If we were trying to keep it in the middle range of RH, we want a material called ProSorb, which is a little bit more expensive than the dry silica gel. And we need to get it in the airspace so as the air it's conditioning gets into the space. Most new showcases can come with facility trays, which is a little tray, usually on the bottom, that you just pull out. Many of the manufacturers will only make those so they can take 1 or 2 kilos though, and you probably want a bigger one. For an existing showcase like this, what we could do is build, if we're happy to raise the objects a little bit, we could build a box maybe this high with some holes in it, put the ProSorb in there and leave it. The size of those holes or slots, surprisingly, is really critical. So as we found for a metal piece, if the holes are 5mm, it won't work. The inside of that box is very well controlled, but the showcase isn't. If the holes are 8mm, it does work, so you need 8mm holes. And similarly, if you're going to have a gap, a slot around the edge, you need about a 19mm gap covering 3 sides between wherever the silica gel is and the showcase is. For this kind of case, there can be problems to do with that approach, because generally it's easy to get the silica gel, the absorbent, at the bottom, and it's a very tall case, and sometimes the dry air doesn't move up there. Things like desktop cases are much better for that kind of control. If you did have this issue, it depends on what's there. So here we have the print, which is relative humidity sensitive, but it's glazed, which will protect it. So if we only controlled up to this level with the silica gel, that would probably be okay in this case. But if you've got sensitive material higher, it's an issue. The other issue you may have if you're trying to control it, as opposed to just buffer it, is you'll need to change the silica gel. And how often you change that silica gel depends on the volume of the showcase, how much silica gel's in it, and the air exchange rate, how leaky the showcase is. And air exchange rates can become really important from that point of view. If you have to change your silica gel every 3 months or 4 months, that's quite a bit of work. Okay, so If we're going to try and control the RH in a showcase, it will be much easier and is likely to be much more successful in this kind of case. It's a low height and we have a much bigger area at the bottom compared to the volume than the tall case we were talking about earlier, which means we can get a lot more silica gel under here. We don't have the height issue and stratification of relative humidity, making it different higher up. And also because it's essentially a 5-sided glass box that is hinged at the bottom here, it's inherently much more airtight. We also have a very convenient place to put our silica gel here, and we can put some hatches to allow us to put the silica gel in without actually having to open the case and disturb the objects.